Hello, I'm Carrie, and welcome to episode 10 of the Sego Fibers podcast. Welcome and welcome back. This is a knitting podcast where I talk about what I have finished knitting, what I'm currently working on, and what I would like to work on in the future. And I'm coming to you from Salt Lake City, Utah. It is still very much summer out, but fall has started to tease us a little bit. We had a couple days last week where the high was in the 70s, like even the low 70s. And I walked outside and it felt like chilly, but it was really nice. And so we'll see, maybe it'll start cooling off a little bit in September. We still have highs in the 90s and stuff this week, so it's not the end of summer yet, but it's interesting. You can definitely feel everything kind of changing. It's like kids are going back to school. The usual fall schedules are starting back up. People are getting back into a more normal routine. So it's just interesting, the different changes going on. And yeah, so I imagine that our weather will be changing soon-ish. We've had snow in October before, which always kind of catches us by surprise. Sometimes end of September. So I'm guessing between now, within the next month, it should definitely be fall. That's my guess. But that'll be really nice. But I have to admit, I've been enjoying the warm weather this summer more than any other summer I can remember. And I think it's because I'm spending more time out in it. I don't know. I'm with the kids playing out there like a couple hours a day. And so I don't know, maybe I've just gotten used to it. But it's really nice to just have to throw shoes on and go outside and not have to worry about coats and hats and everything. So that's certainly a lot easier. So I am appreciative of that. Yeah. So anyway, let's jump into our knitting. So if you can't tell, I do have another finished object. This is Millassommertopp by Camilla Karlsen. Let's see if I can set her name right. I think so. So I'll insert a video clip here of me kind of like spinning around in it, but I wouldn't judge her pattern too much by what I did, because I feel like I changed it a fair bit. I changed gauge, I changed needles, probably yarn, I don't even remember what she recommended, and I ended up knitting the extra large size because of my gauge to get I was hoping to get somewhere between like an extra small and small, but turned out once I measured it after I finished, it's between a small and a medium, so it's a 39-inch circumference around the body. Yeah, so like here it's 39 inches. Yeah. And another change I made, I didn't really make changes to her pattern other than the gauge, but when I finished it, I was getting sweatshirt vibes. And so even though I made this out of linen yarn, and it has short sleeves, it was so oversized feeling, and with the crew neck and everything, it was telling me it wanted to be a sweatshirt. So I embroidered this like cross V thing that sweatshirts have. Now, I haven't woven in the ends yet, which you can see in the video too, but that's because I wasn't sure if I wanted to do the embroidery of this part in the same color or use one of the other colors. But I think I like it in the pink because, I don't know, it kind of goes with the raglan and creases. What do you guys think? Do you think I should keep it pink or use one of these other colors? Let me know. Yeah, so let's see. Overall, I'm pleased with it, especially once I added this and just really embraced the whole kind of sweatshirt theme. Now I feel like it makes sense with itself. as opposed to trying to be something that it's not doing well. Whether this works well or not, I don't know, but it seems kind of oversized sporty to me. Who knows? At least it's good enough for me to wear around easily. Obviously nothing fancy, but that's totally fine. This isn't my typical style of something to wear, so I think if I just put it in the sports lounge category, then it's okay. The purpose of this project for me was to just get a little bit of experience and try something. So the purpose wasn't really to get a finished object that I would absolutely love. If I did, great, but this was definitely a process knit in the sense of I just want to learn how to do this. I hadn't done a raglan before, and now you might be thinking, if you've seen past episodes, like, well, what about your white one? So yes, I did knit a white ranunculus, and that has like a combination yoke, I think is what they call, because there's increases all the way around for the yoke, and then there's raglan increases towards the bottom of the yoke. And I cast that on after I cast this one on. And so I started this one, worked on it for a bit, and then decided I wanted to do something else too. So then I cast on and finished the ranunculus, and then I continued with this one. The purpose of this was to just get some experience, try a full normal raglan type top and see how it fit, see what it was like to make, and then kind of figure out from there like what I like about it and what I want to look for next time. And so it was definitely really good for that. I kind of think there's too many stitches here. It's wider in the body than I would prefer, and I think the yoke is too deep. I would probably raise this a bit. I'm not really a fan of how it kind of folds right here. I just feel like there's too much fabric. And I'm guessing that's because there's too many stitches, but it even starts right here, so I don't really know why that is. Maybe it's because I should put my raglan increases farther in so they're like that. Would that fix it? If any of you have more experience with knitting raglan sweaters, please let me know, because I would love to get better at this. So if I were to move the increases over here, would that make it less baggy? What would be the fix for that? One of those fixes is probably just knitting a pattern to gauge, following the instructions rather than going off on my own thing. That would probably be a good idea, but I'm curious to learn the hard way too. Just trying stuff out and learning as I go. As far as the yarn goes, this pink is Louet Euroflax. I believe this goes by a different name now. They just changed the main brand number, and the colorway for this is Pink Panther. And then all the rest of, actually I think there's some white in here too. That's pure white. I think it's also by Euroflax. And then the rest of the colors are Fibra Natura Flax. This is Wild Lime, Tarragon, Taupe, that's Potent Berry, Pale Blush, and this is all I have of the white. And this is how much I have left of the main Pink Panther. But yeah, I actually have a whole lot more of the green than I expected to, but I guess I'll find something to do with the scraps. We'll see what happens with those. I'm not sure what you do with linen scraps, because with normal wool yarn you can just like stick it in with any scrappy thing and it's fine. But this is so different. You'd have to do something like maybe a striped hand towel or something. We'll see. Yeah, so that is Millassommertopp. I am interested to try this pattern again. Oh, here we go, more ends. I'm curious to try this pattern again with something closer to the suggested yarn. I think hers, oh man, I really don't remember, but I would guess it's some sort of summer-ish yarn, so like wool and cotton, or maybe only cotton, or something with silk, but something softer and drapier. An interesting thing I noticed was that I think the Fibra Natura flax yarn is softer than the Euroflax. This feels like a little bit itchy, but I think if I were to dry it in the dryer, then it might soften up more. That's what I've heard. I haven't tried it yet. I did wet block it with wool wash, and the drape, like everything smoothed out and the drape is really nice, but it's still a little bit rough. Yeah, so that's that one, first finished object. I actually have 2 more finished objects. This is crazy. It's been technically, I think, a month since a normal podcast. A couple of weeks ago I posted a yarn crawl episode and that was really cool, but between the 2 normal podcasts I've had a fair bit of time to knit, so I've been excited about that. And this next project is one I'm really proud of. These are the Weekday mittens, and it's from the book Knit Like a Latvian. And yeah, this is by Ieva Ozoliņa, and I'm so thrilled with how these came out. It was definitely quite the saga of getting here. Man, I mean, my favorite bits are like this kind of picot edge that turns over, and then this is beautiful with the flowers, and then I like the geometric color work there, and I just thought it worked out really well. And then here's the thumb side. And so the thing about Latvian mittens is that typically the thumb just continues the pattern, so it's kind of seamless. But when I say this was a saga, it's because there was a huge learning curve for me. I hadn't used needles as small as I did for these. They were 1.5 millimeter DPNs, and I also hadn't used DPNs in years, so that was a bit of a learning curve too. I hadn't used this yarn before, and this yarn is Jamieson and Smith. This is the Shetland Supreme jumper weight for the main color, and they come in, this one comes in a 50-gram ball, and I have 8 grams left. So I used a fair bit, but there's a safe, healthy amount left. I didn't feel like I was playing yarn chicken. And then for the contrast color, I used Jamieson and Smith 2-ply jumper weight, and it came in a 25-gram ball, and the color is FC50 mix. And this is all I have left of it. So it's an amazing, gorgeous color. I would definitely use it again. Actually, I will be using it again because I have another ball of this. But I have 0.8 grams left. So I was really nervous towards the end that I thought I might run out, and I was like, what am I gonna do? But it actually would have been fine because, like I said, I have another ball and I won't be using that much of it in the next pair. So I did have a safety net, but like I don't want to have to buy 2 balls just in case if I don't need to. So anyway. I think it's still doable. I think you can get away with only getting 1. But yeah, so and it was also my first full real colorwork project, first successful one at least. And so I knit when I first started this, I knit about this much, I think, and my gauge was all off. The mitten here was all scrunched up, and then it kind of went like that. And because here when I first started, I was just trying to get a handle of like how to manage all the different needles, how to manage 2 strands of yarn at the same time, and how to catch floats in the back so that you didn't have really long floats. For example, like that's what the back looks like. So the floats are only like 2 stitches long, and yeah, so it was just a lot to figure out at once. And so I was thinking, okay, just get the mechanics down and figure out tension later. So I did that, and I ended up with a weird shaped thing and there was no way it would block out at all. And so I started over, and since I finally figured out my tension, I was able to get to matching mittens, which was great. And then when I got to about this far, I think, with the first correct mitten, I realized I forgot to put the thumb stitches on hold. So the way the pattern goes, you knit up to here, you put so many stitches on waste yarn, and then you keep going, and then once you finish the mitten part, you pick these up and you make the thumb. Well, I forgot to do that, and there was no way I was going to rip back because, I mean, you can do an afterthought thumb. So that's what I did. And so I did, and because I did it with the first one, I decided to do an afterthought thumb with the second one. And I think I have a picture of what that looks like. If so, I'll put that in. But it worked out great. And actually, one of the benefits of doing it that way was there were a couple, you end up with more tails of yarn on the inside with which you can kind of sew together any holes that happen. And I had some holes, and so, but I was able to sew it all up with the tails from the extra yarn bits. So that was a plus. So if you forget to put your thumb on waste yarn, don't worry, you can still keep going. Yeah, and so I guess I'll try these on. I think my biggest lesson with these, besides just learning the practical skills, was to trust the pattern. And so it's like, I doubted everything about this pattern. It's like, gauge? No way, that gauge can't be right. The size of those mittens? No way, that can't be right, that's not gonna work. The thumb placement? No way, that's not gonna work. Like, I just doubted everything about it. And yet, finally, once I messed up enough times and I started following the pattern, it worked perfectly. So, note to self, trust the pattern. Considering how many Latvian mittens there are in the world, I think they've figured out all the details. So, I'm going to trust them now. But yeah, I think they fit great. I did block these, and I tried pulling them a little bit longer. Let's see. I think these would fit probably the vast majority of women extremely well. I think if I were to make a man some, I'd probably go up a needle size, because I just feel like they'd be too short. Width-wise, they're probably okay. And you would want more room in the thumb too for bigger hands. Yeah, I think that's what I would do, or maybe, I don't know, rig the colorwork part to make them longer if you wanted them bigger. But they work out well. So if you're knitting for a woman, then you're golden. Just follow the pattern. Yeah, I'm super happy with these. These are a gift knit that I'll give to someone special at Christmas. And yeah, so I have plans to make 2 more pairs of these. One of them is also a gift knit that I'm hoping to get done by Christmas, and then the other one's just for me, so that can be done whenever. yeah, we'll see when I cast on the next one. And I have one more finished object, but I will skip it for now and talk about it in a few minutes because it goes a little bit with acquisitions too. So now we'll talk about whips. As far as works in progress, I'm using this beautiful project bag that my mother-in-law made me. I just love it. I picked out the fabric and she did everything. So I am making a pair of socks. These are from 52 Weeks of Socks and my go-to sock book. And the pair I'm making right now, it's called Rocking Chair. The Rocking Chair socks. I just think these are really fun. I think they look really cozy. And the pattern recommends that you use 2mm needles, but I don't have those. So I'm using 2.25, and the yarn I'm using is this beautiful skein. I got this for Christmas a couple years ago, and I've just been holding on to it and saving it for the right thing. And I think this is the right thing. And I'm absolutely adoring how it's working so far. And I did just cast this on earlier today. I tried casting on yesterday, but I've had to rework it, so the current version is just since today. And the yarn is Hedgehog Fibers sock yarn, and colorway is Damsel. They have really fun packaging. It's 90% merino wool and 10% nylon. And 100 grams is 400 meters, so very typical sock yarn. Let's see, how far have I gotten so far? Not far. So what's cool about this pattern is that it has a garter stitch cuff. I've never done that before, but I'm really liking the effect. And it looks really beautiful with variegated speckled yarn. So that's that side, and then this side. It's definitely pooling, but I think it'll be okay. And I think it'll actually look pretty cool, and I think the way it pools will change as the pattern changes because of yarn overs and decreases and whatever. So I'm curious to see how that goes. And I think with this particular pattern, pooling will still look okay. Normally it's not something I go for, but I think this will work with this. Let's see. So I first cast on 64 stitches, which is the large size. And well, I did that because on previous socks that I've done with 2.25 needles, 64 works well. However, once I got I think I did maybe 4 more rows after this, and then I tried it on, it was really loose, and so I was a bit surprised by that. And so then I did the small size, which was 56 stitches, and it was heavily pooling. Like all the purple was showing up on one side and all the light colors were showing up on the other side. It's like, okay, that's not my favorite, but I like it more when the colors mix. And note to self, with the 64 stitch, the colors were mixing really, really well. It wasn't all half and half. But then I decided, like, okay, it's still a little bit loose with the 56 stitches, and so, which was really surprising me. It just must be how stretchy it is, I guess. And the pattern has a 4-stitch repeat, and so I decided, like, okay, well, what if I change from 56 stitches to 52? And I knew I needed to redo the cast on anyway, because the second time I cast on it was too tight and uncomfortable. So the third time I cast on, I did a long tail cast on and did it over both needles. So as you hold it and do the cast on, instead of only doing it on one like you would normally do, I did it over 2, and that worked really well. And so here's the cast on, and it's very loose. Yeah. So I hardly ever use a long tail cast on. I really only ever use it if I'm in a hurry or going to swatch or something. Tubular cast-ons are my favorite, but that would look pretty weird since there's no ribbing, it's just garter. So I went with the normal long tail cast on, and I think it works well. It looks pretty seamless with the garter stitch cuff. I really, really like the variegated colors. Oh man, it's having trouble focusing. I really like the garter stitch with the variegated and speckles. I just think that looks so cool. It's a really nice way to make things play together. I don't know. I'm really curious to see how this works out. And I just love all these colors together anyway. They're so pretty. Anyway, this pair of socks is also a gift knit for Christmas. Yeah, I'm trying to, like, now that half the year is gone, I'm really feeling like Christmas pressure. So it's like, I need to get on it. Because I had grand plans in January about, oh, I'm gonna do all these Christmas gifts. But then I discovered like garment and sweater knitting, and I just want to do a whole bunch of that. And I know I don't have to knit gifts, but they're also just really, they make good ones. And so I'll keep working on those. Okay. So the next project I'll talk about is like a 99% done finished object. I only have to add one little thing to it, but I wanted to show it to you in this form first. It's a little baby hat. So if this looks at all familiar, it's because you've seen it in this form. When I was expecting Lydia, our third child, I knit these two baby hats, and this is a pattern that I came up with. I think I'm going to call it the Sego Baby Hat. Anyway. And the cool design feature about it is that it's 1x1 ribbing, but it has eyelet rows. And I thought that would be simple and sweet and just very versatile and go with everything. And I was trying to go for something that had petite knit vibes that she hadn't designed yet. Anyway, that's kind of where I was going with it. And I've actually knit a whole bunch of these before. I think I've done 5. I think I made 5 before I did this one. I'll actually have some here that I can walk you through the journey. This was my first one I did, and I did this when I was expecting Veronica, our second child. And I think this is really interesting from a design point of view, because each time I make one of these hats, I try and improve the pattern a little bit. And when I first cast this on, I hadn't designed anything before. This is a first design for me. And I hadn't done or seen this kind of way to combine eyelets and ribbing before, and so I had to figure that out. Anyway, this is new territory for me, and to be honest, I was a little intimidated. I really wanted to try it and figure it out, and I was really interested in the process, but I was also stumbly about it. And so with this one, you can really tell that yes, it's ribbing, and yes, there are eyelets, but the rows, they jog each time. They're not straight columns. And at the time, like, I knew that wasn't what I was ideally going for, but I was too scared of trying different stitches to figure out what would work. I just went with it, and it was fine. We used it heavily, and it's very stretched out right now. I would definitely say this is not newborn size. This is more of maybe a half 6-month-year-old to full year old, and even it's extra stretched out because Ethan, who was 2 at the time, would put it on himself and he would wear it like a beanie with no cuff or anything. I designed it to be worn as a cuff, but it's totally stretched out now. It's an extremely stretchy hat and can be worn a long time. And then the second time I tried to make it, I used, oh, I'll talk about the yarn. This is Sandnes garn, tin merino wool, I think. I'll put the info on the screen. And I got that at Blazing Needles, and I think it was around like $8 or $9 for a 50-gram ball, which is pretty typical for that, I think. And then the next one I did was this. And you can see I figured out how to make the columns. And so I was really pleased about that. So that's finally the look I was going for. So that felt hugely successful. And the yarn for this one is Drops Baby Merino, I think, and the colorway beige. They have a beige and a light beige. To me, this is brown, but whatever. Or a taupe color. I love this color. Like, practically, it goes with everything. It looks awesome on both girls and boys. I love that I could just have one hat, stick it on, and it'll look good and go. You don't have to have like different hats that clash with other things. And anyway, so it's an awesome color. It's extremely soft. To be honest, I can't tell much difference between the Drops yarn and the Sandnes garn, and it's like half the price. I got it from Wool Warehouse, their website, and they have like $5 shipping to the US, which is awesome. So definitely recommend this yarn. Same stuff. Yeah, the yarn is extremely similar to me. I think, yeah, I have a hard time telling any difference between it. They're both really nice. But if you're interested in extremely similar yarn, why pay double? And so this particular brown hat actually came out too small. This won't fit. This won't even fit a newborn. It's just too little. Will it? I don't know. I'll have to test it. I'm kind of curious. I remember it being too small, but I can't remember how old Veronica was at the time. And so I ended up making another one of these out of the same yarn because I had plenty left. And it fit perfectly. I did it just the same as this, just a different stitch count. And unfortunately it got holes in it. It had fallen under her crib, between her crib and the wall, and I didn't know. And so it sat there for a long time and it got holes. So I think some moths found it. And then when we finally did find it, I saw that there were holes, and then Ethan grabbed it and started like pulling it apart. And so it's like totally unrepairable, but oh well. And then when I was expecting Lydia, I decided to make her some. And I had this pair, or this skein of also Hedgehog fibers, the exact same stuff as this, just a different color, in the taffy colorway. And so I decided to try holding it double and to see what happened with that. And the Sandnes garn and Drops yarn that I just talked about, I had thought that was fingering weight, but I believe it's sport weight. And that makes a lot of sense because it's definitely thicker than the Hedgehog fibers yarn. And so I held this double. Yeah, let's see, did I change anything? I think I knit it the same style. I'm not sure that I changed the pattern for that one. But different stitch count to try and make it fit. And I was able to just barely eke out enough yarn to have two. And so it's really cool because this is a preemie to 3-month size, and this is a 3-month to a year size, I would say. And so one skein of yarn can make 2 hats that fit for the whole year. And so that's pretty nice. The important thing about the newborn size is that it does need to be blocked in order not to be too small. Because since newborn heads are so soft and sensitive and all that, you don't want the hat to be too tight. And so what I did was I blew up a balloon to the same circumference of Lydia's head, and then I just wet blocked it on that, and when I took it off, it fit perfectly and it wasn't too tight on her. So that worked out really well. With the larger size, their heads are more robust, I guess, and so it works out fine. And you can also start using it before it's tight to begin with. And so it's just really no problem. Let's see. All right, so when I made this version this time, I wanted to improve on the pattern from this one. And so the hat is designed to always have a cuff. And after using both of these, or this one at least, I've realized like, okay, it always does have a cuff. Because my thought was, well, what if they get older and then they don't need, like, what if they get older and so they need the extra fabric here in order to fit? But then it's too narrow. And so then you just go up to the next hat and then you have a cuff. And same. And so I was thinking, okay, I'm pretty sure this will always have a cuff. And unfortunately, the way these columns work, they don't line up. And so on this side, the columns are all straight. I'll kind of slow down. The columns are all nice and straight through the eyelets. There aren't any weird jogs. But when you have the cuff, there is a jog. So like there's the purl row, eyelet, and then that's where the column, the knit row goes. And that doesn't look as nice. And so this part looks inside out, which it is. So I was trying to see if I could figure out a way to fix that, since there will most likely always be a cuff on the hat. And I figured it out. This is where I was super proud of myself. So when it's flat like this, you can tell that there's columns going down here, and then it starts to jog with these. That's because once you fold it, it's correct again. Anyway, I'm not even sure if it's showing up well. There. I think that's a little bit better. It still looks a little sideways. I guess maybe I pulled too tight on these stitches or whatever. I'm not sure. But when you stretch it out, like, it is correct. Yeah. So I was really happy about that. And the biggest reason I think I'm proud of it is because I overcame the fear of I overcame the fear of experimenting with stitches. So I just kind of sat there with my knitting, was like, oh, what happens if I do this kind of decrease? Or that one? Or this one or that one? Or if I do the yarn over and the decrease in a different order, if I move the stitch over here? And so I'm just trying these different things. And I was definitely not at that place when I first started. And even though it didn't actually take me that long to figure it out, I still tried several different things, and just, I don't know, just entering that place of experimentation and not being afraid of failure, like that was really fun. And it just felt like, oh, I can do anything now. If I can figure out that, then I can come up with whatever. And it just helped make it not so scary. So that was really nice. So all I have left to do with this one is this little tuft on the top, which is super easy to do. But I wanted to show you, oh, yeah, that's right. There's one other thing, but here's what the top looks like without the tuft. I like how neat and symmetrical it is. And I'll show you one other change I made. And this also took some experimenting. Okay, now this is a very kind of minute detail. Honestly, this pattern is easy and simple, but it's all about the details. The thing I'm really trying to focus on is finessing all the little things so that it's just kind of like a high quality, easy knit is what I'm going for. It's like extremely thoughtful is what I'm trying for. Anyway, so here is the beginning of the decreases for the crown. And you can see that this column has knit stitches all connecting it. Nope, that's not it. This column has knit stitches all connecting it, and it's a single column. It's continuous. And then this one just ends in an eyelet. I'm actually going to try experimenting with this thing, but this column has knit stitches connecting it. And then with this one, the knit stitches go down here to the eyelet, it jogs, and then the column continues. And so the lines look like this. And I was curious to see if I could make it so that instead of this, it looks like that. And I figured it out. So yeah. Wait. Yes. Okay. Let me see if I can hold it better. So yeah, so here's the same column, column, and then here's the next one. So you can tell it turns because there's that eyelet there, but at least the knit stitches are continuous. Like it's not ending and one starting is next to it. It's more of just turning. But I thought that was interesting, and I think it gives it more of a seamless look. It's more obvious, and you can tell when it's kind of filled out like that. Oh yeah, these are better. I don't know if I just did the other one too tight or something. But yeah, so it felt really good to figure that out. And to just enter that space of trying new things. And this green yarn that I'm using is Sandnes Garn Duo, and it's a DK weight. It's 55% merino and 45% cotton, and it's a 50-gram ball, and it has 115 meters. It's a really beautiful color. The colorway is Dusty Light Green, number 8521. The cotton definitely gives it kind of a faded look. They have some really nice colors. The reason I got this actually is because Blazing Needles, I get their newsletter, and they said like, oh, we have all these things on sale, and so this was on sale for $5 a ball, and it's originally over $10, and so I was thinking, okay, so I'll get a couple skeins of that. And so the other color I got is this really nice yellow. It's looking, there we go, that's better. It's a little more sunflower in real life. This is looking a little redder. Anyway, the color for this one is Ochre, number 2124. Maybe that's better. I know once it focuses, it gets darker for some reason. Anyway, yeah. And so I actually have a goal for this hat pattern. I want to finesse as many details as I can, and then have 2 sizes, the newborn size, like the preemie to 3 months, and then the baby hat size, which is like 3 months to 1 year. And for each of those 2 sizes have versions for fingering, fingering held double, sport, DK, and worsted. So for each of those weights or combos, you have 2 sizes option for you, 2 sizes you can choose from. That way this pattern can be for those times when you're like, oh, there's a baby shower this weekend, what do I do? And you can just hunt through your stash and say, oh, I have 50 grams of this weight of yarn. I can make a hat with that. I can do this pattern with that. And that way, whatever you happen to have, you can do. And I want to experiment with different kinds of yarn. I'm trying to use a variety. I want to see, I think I'm going to try and get like a textured yarn and see what that does. I mean, we already have a speckle and a solid. And this is merino nylon. This is merino and cotton. This is a fingering weight yarn that I plan on using for it, and it's wool and silk. It feels really soft, but I don't know what kind of wool it is. But the silk is really nice. And this yarn is Cloud9 Fibers Philo. I think it's actually discontinued, which is unfortunate, but with this being kind of like a bust your stash kind of pattern, I think it's probably okay, because the point is you don't have to use the recommended yarn, and I'm trying to use lots of different yarns. Ideally, I would use a different yarn for each example, so that would be 10 different kinds, but I'm not doing that. Because obviously the speckled pink one, those 2 hats use the same yarn, and it's kind of cool that you could use one of your special skeins if you wanted to make 2 hats. It's a good use for that. And this DK is obviously the same yarn, just different colors. And these are the same yarn, just different colors. But it's, yeah, 80% wool, 20% silk, 100 grams and 393 yards. And it's single ply, which is different. This brown is called modeling clay. And I'm not sure what the cream, let's see. Oh, there's a better color. Yeah. I don't remember what the cream is called, but I thought it would be nice to have some neutrals in there. And yeah, and then I also have this yarn that I'll use for it. This is a worsted weight. It's Lion brand Woolies. Man, it looks, I haven't knit with worsted weight yarn in forever, and it just looks super thick. It's like, man, what kind of needles does it need? Yeah, it says 5mm. It just looks so thick. Let's see. So like I said, I am trying to use a variety. So Woolies is a very readily available yarn here in the US. It's at Michael's, Hobby Lobby, any of those usual craft stores, probably at Joann's. So I wanted to use something that was not very expensive and easy to get a hold of. And this is the color Arrowwood. Yeah, so I like the ochre yellow. To me, this is more of an ochre color than this, which is called ochre, but anyway. And this one is a fancy yarn in my opinion. Sandnes Garn is, I think, is fancy. But I'm happy to have gotten it on sale, but at $10 a ball, that's kind of pricey in my book. And then, yeah, so I'm trying to use a variety. And I'm just excited to have like a whole spread of different hat options, all the different variations. I think it'll be fun to see them together. I plan on making an order from Wool Warehouse and getting some drops. Probably drops big merino for the kind of worsted or Aran size. I'm gonna get some more drops baby merino, the same stuff that this is. And I'm on the fence about whether to get fingering weight yarn, because this is fingering weight that I can use, so I don't need more, but I'm curious to make a striped version. And yeah, so okay, here's a question. If I were to get drops Nord, which I think has alpaca in it, do you think that would be soft enough for a baby knit? Because it's inexpensive, which is awesome, and I could get a couple of them to make a striped version. What do you think? So please let me know. I've never felt it before, and I don't want it to be like itchy and scratchy. But yeah, is alpaca okay? Please, inquiring minds want to know. Yeah, so that's where I am with my knitting. I plan on casting this one on very soon. This is going to be the small size. This is the bigger size, and so it'll be easy to figure out how many stitches to cast on based on that. Yeah, so that'll be ongoing. I'm not sure how long it'll take me to finish all the sizes. Hopefully not long, because I'm excited about it, but there are other things I want to knit in the meantime, like this pair of socks and some other gift knits, and I kind of want to continue a shawl I started like a year ago. I want to pick it back up. We'll see. And of course, all the sweaters. But I think I'm gonna have to put the sweaters on hold while I do these other things, but we'll see how it goes. Lots of things I want to work on. Yeah, so I think that's it for the knitting content. Yeah, I guess I could talk about Blazing Needles a little bit. That's one of my local yarn stores, and it's a very beautiful store. If you're ever visiting Salt Lake, I do recommend checking them out. They have a lot of yarn. I think they specialize in all the like fancy big names. So they have La Bien Aimée, they have Shibui, I think that's what they call it, how they say it. Sandnes Garn, Rauma Phenol, or Rauma. They have, of course, a whole lot more than that, but those are like the big fancy names in my mind. And yeah, but I don't go there often because they tend to be more expensive, and they don't have as much. I just don't go there very often because they don't have as much in my price range, and I would not say it's kid friendly. Most of the people there are super friendly, like the customers and the employees, but with everything being so nice there, it's kind of like taking tiny children into a china shop without covers. Like there's no barrier between them and the breakable things. And so I just get really nervous trying to take kids in there. When I picked these up, I did take them in, but I knew exactly what I was looking for and hunted for it. And thankfully, where this yarn was located, it was in a place where they couldn't mess other things up. But if I was just browsing, I think that would be a nightmare. Anyway, yeah. So, but it was actually really sweet when I picked out the yarn, and actually our longest time was just waiting at checkout. And one of the employees offered to give them some goldfish, and like why they had goldfish, I'm not sure, maybe for emergencies like this, but Ethan was starting to get a bit bouncy, and she gave him a little baggie of snacks, and so I was like, oh, that totally solved the problem, and that worked out well. Yeah, I wasn't anticipating being there for very long, so I didn't bring snacks, but should probably do that next time. But yeah, that was extremely kind and thoughtful of her to do that. And they were, of course, very interested in the yarn winders and swifts and all that, so they thought that was really cool. Yeah, but it was interesting seeing all of the different customers there. They looked like such stylish people. It's in a nicer part of town, and the people who are in there, like, I've seen a variety of ages and everything there in the past, but for some reason at this moment it was all very stylish grandmas. And it's like, oh wow, you look very nice. And here I am in like my t-shirt and jeans and like trying to get, I don't know, wrangle 3 kids and a couple balls of yarn. It's like, let's go. Get back to the van. But yeah, it was funny. Yeah, I'd say it was a good experience. But yeah, it's a very beautiful store and I recommend checking it out. Especially if you're looking for more of like those types of yarn. Alright, and for this last knitting-ish related part, I checked out a couple books from the library, and I thought they were pretty interesting. This one is The Complete Book of Traditional Knitting. I was just curious to see what would be in it. I just placed them on hold and picked them up. I didn't pick it up while I was browsing. But they have traditional like patterns and stuff in there, color work, and it's all based on different locations. And they talk about lace shawls and like the history of knitting in different places. It's actually very interesting. They talk about, I don't know, it's just, there's a lot of words, and it's like, I don't know, it's more of like a history of knitting as well as examples. I mean, look at this lace. So it's very interesting. I look forward to actually skimming through it a bit more. I just kind of glanced at it. And then this one I haven't looked at yet, but I'm looking forward to diving in. Cables, Diamonds, Herringbone. And it's all about like fisherman sweaters and the textures of them. I want to make my husband Nathan a hat, and when I asked him what kind of hat he might like, he said, I want it to be like a fisherman's sweater, but like a hat. And so that's kind of why I checked this out, just to see what kind of different stitches they might have. And I haven't really glanced through it yet, but they seem to have a lot of interesting things, and I like the way they combine different ones. I feel like that's more unique to this book. Yeah, so we'll see. I would love to actually take him to a yarn store so he can actually feel the yarn and pick out what he wants. He really appreciates my knitting, which is really cool, but he's also very into it himself, and so I think it's best to like make him an integral part of the process so he can pick out the pattern, the yarn, all that sort of thing, and then he'll really love it. I mean, he'll like it and use it anyway, but I don't know, I'd like him to really like it. And he did tell me that he wants Shetland wool, which is this stuff, for his hat, but then when he felt this, he thought it was too rough to be against his forehead. And so I was like, okay. So that's when I was really thinking, I want you to feel it yourself and tell me what you think, because I think it would be okay. It's definitely on the rougher side if it's going to be on your forehead, but I mean, it's perfectly fine for hands. But he did say he likes the idea of using Shetland wool, and he likes that it's warm, and he'd be willing to get over the scratchiness. And so we might be doing that. Yeah, so that's kind of on the docket. This hat has been an idea for over a year, probably, at least 2 years maybe. It's just really hard to pin down what he wants. So I keep telling him we need to go to a yarn store together and pick out his yarn, but we haven't done it yet. Hopefully soon. That would be nice. I think it'd be really cool to take him up to Needlepoint Joint up in Ogden, because I haven't been there yet, but I know they have Jamieson and Smith. And I mean, it's a new store, and I know it's fun to get away from it. So that might be a trip. We'll see. As far as life updates go, Nathan finished building our deck. Yay! So he had thought originally that it would be a weekend project with his dad, but they kept uncovering like more rotten wood and more rotten wood, and it's like, oh, we have to replace this too. Oh, now we have to replace that. This deck was really old, and it was having splinters. It was all made, it was entirely of wood and plywood and stuff like that, and it was, you couldn't really go out on it barefoot. And so yeah, he finally finished it, and I love it. It's so nice to be out on. We need to figure out what furniture we want to put on there, because right now it's just totally blank. But in the evenings after we put the kids to bed, sometimes we'll lay a blanket out and play a board game, and it's just really pleasant outside. And I've actually started doing something new and unusual for me. I don't really have an exercise regimen that I do. Like I hate running, if I'm honest. I don't go running. I don't go to a gym. I don't really do anything. But I know that I need to be active to stay healthy, and it's good, but I haven't found what works yet. But a friend of mine invited me to go bouldering with her at a climbing gym. And so I'm like, okay, that actually sounds fun. And it's totally fun. I've gone twice with her now. And before the first time, I'm thinking like, oh, bouldering. Do they have like a bunch of like fake boulders in the middle of a room that you climb? No. But if you've seen before like rock walls with like the fake handholds that you use to climb up them, and you have like ropes and a harness and everything, it's like that, except the walls are shorter and you don't have to wear a harness or use ropes. And you don't need to be certified. You can just go and do it. And it's so fun. When you go in, you can rent these climbing shoes, and you just start climbing away. And it's a really good workout for your arms, and it can be very social. And because like she and I just chat the whole time, and you can kind of take breaks because she'll climb one and then I'll climb one, and like that kind of thing, so you get a breather. And after a couple hours or whatever, you've had some great conversation time and hangout time, and you've also had a workout. And it's really funny because towards the end you're still excited about it, and you can kind of intellectually know what to do, like how to climb a particular route, and yet your arms are jello. So it's like, oh, I know my arm needs to go there. I know like it should be able to do that because it's done that in the past, but it won't do that now. And it's just really funny when you get to that point, you know, like, okay, I'm done. I can't climb even the easiest one anymore. But I think what I like about it is that there's so much variety, and there's like a discrete challenge. And so there's tons of different climbing routes you can do. It's like, okay, I'm gonna follow these purple ones on this one and get to the finish rock. And it's like, it's a challenge. And there's different hardness levels, and it's just, it's much more interesting than just mindless running or going to a gym. And I find it a lot less awkward. And then you can also watch other people and kind of cheer them on. It's like, oh, you did that thing, or I have no idea how you did that, or that's ridiculous. And it's just, I don't know, it's a pretty cool environment, and I like that a lot. And so I really appreciate her inviting me, and I think we're going to start doing it regularly. And so I think that would be good. As far as things coming up, one of my nieces is having a piano recital. I believe it's just in their house. It's just like a smallish thing, but it's a big deal to my niece. And so my niece asked for all family members who could attend to please come. And so it was just really cool. So Nathan's parents are going down, and so they're gonna come down from Idaho, pick me up, and me and the kids are going to drive out to Colorado to go kind of hang out and watch her recital and just spend time together. And our other family in Colorado will go, and Nathan has to work, but we all get to hang out for a couple days and then come back. So it'll be a quick trip. But yeah, I just love that we can have any little excuse and just spend some time together. Even if we're not in the same state, we can make it work. It's like it doesn't have to be this grand, huge trip or anything. We can just do it. And so I'm really thankful for that. Yeah, so just hoping and praying that the road trip part goes well. Yeah, I'll have to plan. Well, it should be fine. I mean, Ethan, Veronica, and Lydia will have their grandma in the car. It should be fine. And I'll have knitting, and we'll have lots of chatter. We'll have lots to talk about, I'm sure. Yeah, to be honest, I really love road trips, and so this is not a sacrifice for me at all. I love spending time with family, I love time to knit, and I like road trips, so this is great. Yeah, so that'll be fun, and I think that's about it for us. Yeah, I would love it if you would leave a comment. Yeah, let me know if you think an alpaca wool mix, like something like Drops Nord perhaps, would be good for a baby hat. I'd love to hear what you're knitting on. Have you attempted freestyling or writing your own pattern for a project you're going with? Anyway, thank you for leaving comments. I really enjoy answering them and reading them and all that. It's a lot of fun. And if you want to stay up to date on whenever I post a new video, feel free to subscribe and hit the bell, and it'll let you know when I post a new video. I try and do it every other week, and as long as there's nothing, like no big crazy trips or whatever happening, I can usually keep to that. So thank you if you like and subscribe. It'll be fun to keep up with you through the comments while you keep up with me. And yeah, I think that's about it. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and really enjoy the changing of the seasons, maybe as they start. I know when I lived in Florida growing up, like there was no changing of the seasons. So maybe it might be wishful thinking, but at least in this climate, there's 4 seasons and I'm loving it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Happy knitting. Bye.